This episode of the Hunt Stealth podcast is brought to you by ReadyWise Outdoor. As a hunter and outdoor enthusiast, you need food that's not just convenient, but also nutritious. That's why I trust ReadyWise Outdoor. Their Pro Meals are designed to fuel your adventure, packed with over 30 grams of protein and more than 500 calories per serving, keeping you energized when you need it the most. Favorites like the Thai coconut cashew curry or the protein-packed breakfast skillet are not only delicious, but ready in minutes. Just add water. Plus, their freeze-dried technology keeps these meals lightweight, which are perfect for extended trips. Whether you're deep in the backcountry or preparing for a weekend camping trip, ReadyWise has your back, with meals that give you the stamina you need to go the extra mile. Their meals are made locally here in the U.S. and come with a 15-year shelf life. So head on over to ReadyWiseOutdoor.com today and explore their Pro Meal bundles, because your outdoor pursuits deserve great-tasting, high-quality meals. And be sure to enter promo code Ryan20 to save 20% off at checkout. That's Ryan20 to save 20% off at ReadyWiseOutdoor.com. Need a cooler that keeps your food and drinks ice cold on your next adventure? Look no further than Blue Coolers from Caddis Sports. With the industry-leading insulation and rugged durability, these coolers are perfect for camping trips, tailgates, and all of your outdoor adventures. The built-in wheels make transportation a breeze, no matter how heavy the load. Whether you're fishing, hosting a barbecue, or at deer camp, Blue Coolers has you covered with unmatched performance at an affordable price. Blue Coolers are made right here in the USA, so get yours today at caddissports.com. Be sure to use promo code Ryan10 to save 10% off at checkout. That's Ryan10 to save 10% off at caddissports.com.
You're listening to the Hunt Stealth Podcast with Ryan Uffens, the podcast where we dive headfirst into the wild. Whether you're an aspiring hunter or an adventurer seeking the untamed, together we'll explore the strategies and stories that lead to success in the great outdoors.
Hey guys, it is Ryan Uffens here with the Hunt Stealth Podcast. Excited to have Jay Scott join us today. Jay is an outfitter, a guide. He is a real estate investor. He has his own podcast. It's Jay Scott Outdoors, 850 episodes. And when he's not doing all that other fun stuff, I think in the summer he takes a break and does a little bit of fly fishing, if I'm correct. Is that right, Jay?
That's right. I love to fly fish. Been doing that for over 30 years, and usually chase trout all around the western U.S., primarily Colorado, Montana, Idaho, Utah, and love to catch specifically brown trout. Moving water is kind of my favorite thing for sure. When I'm not thinking about hunting or a real estate deal, or doing some podcast, usually can catch me doing quite a bit of fishing and rowing. I actually have two rafts. I have a 9'6" raft and a 13-footer. Love taking my friends and family and whatnot down the river and chasing trout for sure.
Awesome. Well, it seems like you'd be a good guy to become friends with then.
Well, some might argue with that. Some of my buddies might argue with that because of the ridicule that they get in the front of my boat if they make a bad cast or something, just because we have a lot of fun. But no, yeah, I think we have a lot of fun for sure when we're out there and doing our different adventures between hunting, fishing, golfing, whatever it may be.
Perfect. That's awesome. Jay, I want to jump in a little bit. We touched briefly that you're an outfitter. What I want to talk to the audience today a little bit about is what is something that they should kind of plan for if you've never gone with the outfitter or gone out with a guide hunting, because a lot of our listeners that we have are new to hunting. And I'm new to hunting. I've been hunting for just 4 years now. And as I start looking, I'm starting to like the idea of getting a guide. The more and more I do this, it seems like it's a good way to get the job done. But maybe walk people through what to look for when they're looking for an outfitter or a guide to pick and take them out on a hunt, and what are maybe some things that they should try and plan for.
You bet. I think the main thing is, you've got your outfitters and you've got your guides, and in different states, outfitter is your guide. And then some places the outfitter is kind of the boss of the operation. And then there's guides that work underneath them. So maybe get familiar with which state you're in and kind of how that operates. I think the big thing is you've got to find, you're going to have to spend time in the woods or on the water with your guide. And so it's nice to be able to find a guide that you kind of relate with, that you can have fun with. And some of the best clients guiding experiences that I've had have been where you just feel like you're out with your friends, and you guys are working towards a common goal. And I think sometimes people that go on a guided hunt that don't know what to expect, it really helps to kind of have clear expectations of what the guide expects of you and what you expect of the guide, and what you want out of it. And sometimes those things don't align, and sometimes it takes a little bit of communication to, for the client to say, this is what I'm looking for, or this is what I was expecting. Um, I think a big part of it too is um, being able to kind of come together for a common goal. Most of the time in hunting, it's getting you the animal or the experience that you're looking for. And so if the guide or the outfitter doesn't know what that is, it makes it a little bit challenging, and vice versa. So good communication. You have people that want a guided hunt because maybe they're looking for a great experience, or you might have a guy that says, listen, I don't care about the experience, I just want to kill the biggest animal I can, or I want to see the most animals, or I've been hunting for so long, and the reason I'm choosing a guide is because I very rarely see something, or very rarely am successful, and don't ever end up harvesting anything. So going into it, if you can kind of be clear with your outfitter or your guide as to what it is you're doing and why you're hiring that guide or outfitter, that would help the outfitter out so they can provide the best experience possible for you.
Yeah, it
I
kind of
try and
reminds me a little bit, Jay, of just, I work in sales, right? And you might both have like the same end goal, but how you get there matters. And so, like you said, setting those expectations up front, I think will go a long way in making sure that you, as the hunter, has a good experience. And then it makes it really easy for the guide to be like, hey, this is how we make sure that we deliver on what your expectations are. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah, for sure. And when you can kind of have that, when you're on the same page on a hunt and kind of, come together, um, working towards a common goal, and what that goal is, it's a lot easier to be successful, whether you harvest or not. To say, listen, this guy hired me to, he's shot a bunch of deer, a bunch of elk, or whatever, and he wants bigger than what he's ever shot, or he wants to hunt a certain age class animal. I mean, there's everybody has kind of their own idea of what they want. So once you can kind of get on the same page with a guide or an outfitter, that's usually a good piece of advice there.
Do you think that most people, when they line up with a guide, that they don't know what they really want?
Well, I think sometimes they think the guide or outfitter might know more than he does, or might have more experience than he does, or might know a specific animal or a unit, and they almost put such a high expectation on the situation that if it doesn't, live up to what they're thinking, it detracts from the hunt or from their experience. So I say call and talk to the guide, call and talk to the outfitter, ask them how much experience they have with whatever hunt that they're going on, and, how many years or how many hunts or how many people, a good reference list, talking to people that have hunted with that specific guide or outfitter usually goes a long way. And, usually you call 4 or 5 names on a list and you can get a pretty good sense of, what kind of guy, um, or gal that you're going with. And then I think it falls on the hunter to be prepared, so that now that you've set expectations, and be prepared yourself, with your firearm, with your rifle, with your bow, be proficient at shooting, and hiking, and be in shape, and that way, the guide does his job, the hunter does their job, and usually it produces a good outcome.
Perfect. Yeah, I have a friend of mine, Kevin Smith. Him and his son went out on a goose hunt in the Midwest. I want to say that it was Wyoming. Maybe I think it was anyway, but they went out there and he just talked about what an incredible experience it was. But I remember like leading up to it, he was like showing me pictures. He's like, look at this guy. This is what he's out doing. And so I know when he went in, he had an absolutely incredible experience, and they were able to harvest some geese, and they ended up spending some time there hunting a few other things on this property. But I think, like you said, it's just like anything that I've discovered with hunting. Take your time and do your research, because once you get out there, that ship is kind of sailed. So if you're not in alignment, it's going to make for, unfortunately for both parties, a terrible experience. If you've got a hunter who's out there and they're flustered, the guide gets flustered, and that miscommunication, it's just like anything in life. Just take a little bit of time, especially if you're going to make an investment to go on a guided hunt, to set the expectations. And I would imagine from the people that I've talked to, some of the guides that I've spoken with, they'll tell people like, I'm not the guy to take you out for that. You should talk to my buddy so-and-so. And I mean, I think that's kind of the best referrals that you can get. So,
Yeah, I mean, like any services oriented position or service industry, job, definitely representing what you do well, usually plays in your favor as an outfitter or guide. I have a lot of guides that work with me and for me, and I try and explain to them that positive attitude goes a long ways. Even if the client makes a mistake and misses a shot, or doesn't come through on his end, the last thing I want is any of my guides coming back to camp in front of anyone or other guides and bagging on the hunter, saying I lined him up perfectly and he missed the shot. So I always tell my guys, if a client doesn't make a shot, it's because you failed to put him in a position to succeed. And it's kind of one of those things. I don't really take any argument from my guide. If the client misses the shot, it's your responsibility as the guide. So you need to do everything you can in your power to make sure that he's, lined up, he or she is lined up, and not being rushed, and can perform at a high level, because you're not putting pressure on them, or that you're making them do something quick that they're not used to doing. So, when it comes down to that final crunch time, we like to talk our people through, the situations, and really make them feel calm and say, the animal's not going anywhere. Take your time and go through your process and squeeze the trigger and all that kind of stuff. Now, certainly there are times when guiding and it gets a little intense, and you're like, as a guide, you have to make it happen. And you might just say, listen, we're going to try and do everything we can do in a controlled environment, controlled situation. If I tell you, listen, this isn't going exactly how I think it's going to go, we're going to have to make a quick shot here. Are you prepared with that? Let's go through, let's practice a little bit. If we come into that situation, you know, walk them through how it might go down. And so that way, if, the trophy that they're looking for, the animal that they're looking for pops out, if you have the time to, sit there and take all the time in the world and make it, go the way that you all want it to go, then great. But if it's a situation where it's happening a little faster than you would have wanted, you've kind of already walked through it mentally and or physically, kind of getting them prepared for what they might encounter.
yeah. Um, kind of adding to that, what is it that your outfit really specializes in?
So I've been a outfitter for over 30 years. I'm 51. I was a public land elk guide in Arizona for over 20 years. Also guided numerous bighorn sheep hunts, Coues deer hunts, and then for 5 years, I was the ranch hunt manager at the Ot6 Ranch there in Colorado from 2017 to 2021. Now I work for another family in Montana on a private property for elk, but um, this will be, I believe, my 28th season in Mexico, which is Old Mexico, south of the United States. Old Mexico, primarily Sonora and Chihuahua. We do mule deer hunts, Coues deer hunts, desert bighorn sheep hunts, and Gould's turkey hunts. This will be my 15th season doing Gould's turkey in Mexico. We operate 2 camps there, one in Sonora, Mexico, and one in Chihuahua, Mexico. And the Gould's turkey is the 5th subspecies of turkey, primarily only found in Arizona and New Mexico, with the main population of birds found in Old Mexico, there in Chihuahua and Sonora. There's other states there as well, Durango, Aguas Calientes, Zacatecas, um, that have the Gould's turkey, but the main population is Chihuahua and Sonora. We also do mule deer, desert mule deer in Sonora, and then we do Coues, which Coues is a subspecies of the eastern or the midwestern whitetail deer. Coues deer, a big-bodied Coues is about 110 pounds. Rack size, a Boone and Crockett's 110 inches. 120, 130 inch bucks are really, really big Coues deer. This will be my 28th season this January doing Coues in Mexico. And then we also do just a few desert bighorn sheep hunts, free range desert bighorn sheep hunts in Mexico as well. So the primary meat of my outfitting business is conducted in Mexico. Primarily the deer and the sheep are December and January, and then the turkeys are April and May. There and the guys that come for turkeys, guys and gals that come for turkeys, they're typically trying to complete what is called the Royal Slam or the World Slam. The Grand Slam obviously is the Osceola, the Rio Grande, the Merriam, and the Eastern Turkey. And then the Goulds would be the 5th, which would make a Royal Slam. And then if you go to the south tip of Mexico, you get the Ocellated Turkey, which makes number 6, which is technically what they call a World Turkey Slam. So we kind of conduct. My passion is Gould's turkey in the spring, and we do those. In order to get a Royal or get a World Slam, you have to get a Gould's, and so we operate those hunts, and they're a phenomenal bird. And Mexico's an amazing place. I've been going there for, like I said, this will be my 28th season, so it's been a lot of fun. But in the fall, elk and mule deer, have been a big part of my life for a long time as well.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I haven't really thought much about doing turkey hunts, but now I'm thinking that I've got something else I need to start looking into. My wife's going to be thrilled with
Where do
this.
you live?
I'm in Utah.
Okay, yeah, Utah actually has some really good turkey hunting, and turkey hunting is one of those things that can be done with new hunters, can be done with youth, elderly. It's a real, I kind of call it a gentleman's hunt because a lot of it is you're calling the birds to you. It's not super physical in most situations. You can have situations where you can sit and call and have them come to you, so you don't have to walk all over the landscape. Although you know definitely there's been situations where we have to go after birds and hike around like you're elk hunting. But a turkey hunt, if you haven't done it, is I mean, there's people that are just diehard turkeys, a lot like waterfowlers or other specific animals where they're just super. But turkey hunters are a special breed for sure.
Yeah, like I said, I can't wait to get out there and maybe have to add that to the fall list. I think that they're getting ready to start. I can't remember in the season. I don't even know. Like I said, I haven't looked into it. I know they do like a fall and a spring.
Yeah, so the fall turkey seasons, typically the birds are not calling and gobbling. In the spring when they're mating, it's much like the elk bugle. You get those birds
Get a
gobbling a
tom.
lot, and the toms out there gobbling. In the fall, it's mainly just hen calls and whatnot. So it's not near as exciting as in the spring, where in the spring when those gobblers are out looking for hens, the woods just light up, and it can be in a real exciting time. I encourage you to check it out.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, so speaking of exciting times, if you would, Jay, I have a question for you just in regards to like what has your favorite hunting experience been throughout your life? Like what's the one hunt that you've done that just you look back and it's your maybe you don't have a favorite, but maybe one that just comes to mind that is stands out to you.
Well, being a public land guide in Arizona for, 20 plus years, been fortunate to take, auction tag holders, raffle tag holders where, specific tags where they can hunt 365 days a year for certain animals. Those have been really fun as a guide and very challenging as a guide in that we're specifically trying to find, certain of the most mature animals on the landscape. Um, but I think too, a lot of the hunts where I've taken fathers and sons, or fathers and daughters, or moms and their kids, and being able to see where generations pass down the hunting tradition from one to the other. There's so many, doing this as long as I have. There's so many. So many memories that it's really hard to narrow down into one. But some of the most exciting hunts that I've been on are ones where we've spent months hunting for one specific animal, and really getting your teeth knocked in for you know most of the hunt, and then have it all come together, and be able to find the specific animal that you're looking for. And you know I encourage people out there that if you ever get a chance, a lot of times the Midwest and the Eastern whitetail guys can do this, where, they have farms or have places where they hunt, and they can trail cam, and they can really specifically hunt one animal. Some of the funnest hunts that I've had are where you literally got your heart set on one particular animal. You're hunting that specific animal, whether you're trying to find that animal, whether you're trying to find that animal where you can get in a position to get a shot at the animal. But really, it becomes like a one-on-one game, and sometimes those are the most challenging, and makes you want to pull all your hair out. But when you actually get the animal that you're targeting, specifically, that can be some of the most rewarding hunts that I've ever had.
What's the longest you've ever spent like time chasing down one specific animal?
I mean, um, so many different memories. A bunch of those go back to like sheep hunts where, maybe a general season sheep hunt where I take one hunter in the state of Arizona, and I for years I just focused kind of in the two or three best units in the state, and I might start my scouting as soon as, so the season is in December, and I might see a ram in December that is a really good ram that I want to target for the following year. And it might be a year-long process where you're following that animal, staying on them for the next 11 months until the next season rolls around. One particular instance, I believe it was the 2014-15 season. There was we were in Unit 22 there, just north of Phoenix, just east and north of Phoenix, right there along the Canyon Lake and Apache Lake river chain there. And there was a big ram. We called him Gnarly. We actually had the auction tag hunter in 2014, and had spent a bunch of time looking at that ram, and we thought he was probably just under what our hunter wanted. Well, we know it was, because he wanted just a little bit bigger. And anyway, ended up getting a hunter in 2015 in the December season, for that same unit, and had watched that ram and videoed that ram and taken tons of video and pictures, and had just hours and hours of time committed with that ram. And really felt like we got to know a lot of his movements, and he would move up and down the lake chain. So it's basically a river that's been dammed up in two spots and made these giant lakes where people water ski on them. I mean, they could be 10, 12 miles long, and he could be anywhere on basically as you're going up the river on the left hand side of the bank. And you have to like trailer out 3 hours around to go up to the next lake, because of the way the geography lays. And we spent all summer and all fall watching gnarly and videoing gnarly, and got just incredible video of them. And then right before the season, the auction tag hunter for that year, whom we didn't have as a client, my client had come in 4 or 5 days early before the season, and I said, okay, well, the last place I saw the ram was up here, and we hiked up and we're glassing, and I'm like, I hear somebody talking. I hear somebody. He's like, I don't hear it. And I kept glassing around and looking around, and I could just hear somebody talking, and could not figure it out. I looked down below me on the lake and the river, and I couldn't see anybody down there. And sure enough, I glassed way up this basin, and I could hear these guys talking. And the auction hunter for that year with their guides had actually got in there the night before and found that ram. They had been chasing the ram too, but I didn't know it, and got in there and actually had harvested the ram. And when I finally saw him with my binoculars, it was like right out of a postcard. They were holding, the ram was down, and they're holding the ram up by the horns in a perfect pose aimed right at me. And I'm like 800 or 900 yards away. And here's this perfect pose of this ram, just like, you would hold a ram up. And I'm like, well, there's our ram. He's now,
He's
you
down.
know, gone to Ohio or wherever the hunter was from. And it was a man, it was bittersweet for me and the hunter, because I had sent him all the video and pictures of the ram, and he really had his heart set on him as I did, and we had to end up shifting gears and going to one of our other rams. But I don't know how I got on that. I don't know what she asked me, but that's just one
Well,
story of like
we were just talking
Heartbreak
about like some
Hotel.
favorite experiences, right? Like,
Yeah, I
and you
mean,
were just sharing like being out with clients. So that's interesting. You pivot. How'd the client take it? I mean, there's
oh,
not much that he can do at that point.
yeah, he did great. I mean, he's gone on many hunts with us since then, and is a great guy and understands, it's public land hunting. And
Sure.
it's you just get to spending so much time with a certain animal. You feel like you, even as elusive as they are, you kind of get to feel like their personalities and whatnot. But if I'd go look for him 10 times, I'd only see him 2 out of 10 times. So it's not like you could go out there and just see him. So over the course of a year, more than a year, when you did find the ram and got to spend some time with them, videoing them at a distance, taking pictures, you cherished it. But we didn't get to see that one through all the way from spotting them and thinking about every movement every day, waking up thinking about that specific animal, to harvesting them. But the hunter, he actually shot him with a bow, and I'm not sure if he still is, but I think he's the um, world record with a bow. And he
Wow.
he got him with a bow. We were going to go after him with the rifle, but the hunter did great. We moved on to a different ram, and I think about a week later we ended up. That was his. I believe the completion of his grand slam, and we had a great hunt.
So this is new to me, thinking of like trying to track down, because right now, like my son and I, we're just out going like we just want to fill the freezer, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got a OTC elk tag out here that we're trying to get done. But as I think of this, and you talk about you're like how much time do you put in? So if you've got somebody, a public land tag, and they're going out to try and get a monster, like how much time do you actually put in versus the hunter putting in the time going out trying to track down a specific animal?
It depends on the season and it depends on the animal, but I mean, the bighorn sheep, bighorn sheep in Arizona, they're very highly sought after tags, and there's not many. There's only 100, around 100 sheep tags in Arizona annually. And the units that I hunt, typically there's only one or two tags, very, very limited tags. And it's not a very cost efficient use of my time, but it's something that and I don't do it near as much as I used to, but I would focus months and months for that one hunt, and I would try and designate, the 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 whole month before November, to get out, probably 50% of that, at least 15 days, 15, 18 days of November alone prior to the hunt, and then I would always set aside a good 2 weeks for the hunt. And a lot of times, we would do our homework so the hunts would only last, a day or two. But for 20 plus years in Arizona guiding elk hunters, I would leave on the 31st of August, and then I would return home about October 5th, and I'd be in the field, for 35 to 40 days straight in a row. A lot of times in like Unit 9 in Arizona, Unit 23, Unit 10, kind of those three premier units in Arizona, and I'd spend the whole month there. And it's kind of like, what I do now with the elk, working on these, for these families that own these private ranches, is I spend the entire month. I go out every single day at morning and night. I don't skip a single day. And basically just try and inventory as many animals as I can, run trail cameras, digiscope, kind of organize all of the animals that I see, with the age class, with the antler configurations, and, taking inventory of those properties. And it's the same thing that I did on public land. So just trying to be very systematic about it, and taking a real efficiency approach to like trying to be efficient with my time, trying to be efficient with the organization so that the client would be able to see all the different animals. And, normally I go into these hunts and I say, I want to try and, if it's a sheep hunt, I want to try and video every single ram in the unit. Now, certainly that's a lot of times not feasible. But if you go in with that mentality of like, I want to put my eyes on every single ram in the unit, even if you don't get all of them seen, you end up getting a good, classification of the inventory so that the client shows up and has an understanding of what's there. So, for, and I kind of take a little bit of an extreme approach, which it's just kind of the way I do things. But um, when you really try and go after certain age class animals, and as you progress in your hunting and you get exposed to more and more opportunities, I've been fortunate to hunt in some of the best places in the country, in the state, and in the world. You get to where you kind of, at least I did, where you kind of gravitate towards trying to, you know, do the best that you can. The tags, you live in Utah, it's very difficult to draw a tag in some of these units. You do have some over the counter opportunities, but some of these limited entry tags, take 20, 25 years to draw. So my approach to those is try and attack those as if they're a literal once in a lifetime tag and opportunity, where you want to try and get as good of inventory in that unit as you can and harvest the best animal you can, because that person that's hiring you has applied for 25 years. They don't want to waste an opportunity. And so you've probably seen on my Instagram and stuff where I do a lot of the guess the scores, and I'm very into field judging, and it's not from a one animal is better than another and more, in God's eyes, I believe they're all viewed the same. Um, but it's more of a, I don't want this person that's hired me to not know what's there, so I want them to make a really good decision, an informed decision, and be able to say, here's 25 bulls, and here's maybe the three best ones I've seen. So, if you could get one of those three, you'd be doing really good. You're shooting an older, more mature animal, bigger animal, and then that lets some of the younger ones, grow up for the rest of the people to enjoy over the next, 10 years. So I kind of take a real systematic approach to field judging and trying to help people in these Western states, make a really good decision, because, a lot of them have really devoted a lot of time and money in applying for these tags. So I want them to, get the most out of their situation.
What what would you say, Jay, is one of the biggest mistakes you see people make when they're out in the field trying to harvest one of these animals?
Well, as far as trying to harvest it, I think rushing. Um, I think a lot of people are worried that they're not going to get one, and everybody has their own time horizon of the amount of time that they can get off work, the amount of time they can get away. Maybe they've got family obligations, work obligations, and so it's hard for someone like me to put what I believe they should allocate time wise, because everybody's time horizon is different. But um, I think one of the biggest things is people don't, they shoot the first thing they see because they're afraid they're not going to get one, or they're worried that they don't have the time. So, especially on these, limited entry or limited draw tags, try and give yourself enough time that you don't have to make a quick decision, and that, you want to be happy and pumped, for the rest of your life when you look up on the wall and see that big old buck, that, you did your homework and you didn't just shoot on the first day or the second day. Now, if you're so busy or with all of your schedule and that's all you have, then so be it. But, a lot of these tags where people have waited a long time, it's unfortunate. I see a bunch of them, and they're done on day one or two, and they're kind of dissatisfied with what they shot, and it's because they got a little jumpy. So I try and encourage people to just kind of look at it as like a marathon, not a sprint. Try and prepare your mind mentally for, this is going to be a tough hunt. We're going to try and inventory as much as we can. We're going to try and scout as much as we can. If you don't have the time to scout, then you need to take that time to be able to recognize this is an animal that's in front of me, that if I let go, I might not see another one like it. Or it's an animal in front of me and you say, because I've done my scouting, I know that there's, you know, 15 other animals that are of this maturity or quality, and so I can let this one walk. And the other thing is, I like to hunt, so I always encourage people, you know, if you have a week long hunt and you get to day 7 and you haven't killed, look at all the time you've gotten to spend. So, I think everybody in their hunting career kind of goes through this. They want to be successful and they want to harvest something. That's great. And then, the next year, but as you harvest more, it's kind of like fishing. You go through kind of this, you want to catch every fish in the river. Then you want to catch fish and you want to catch them a certain way on dry flies or on streamers or on, some method. Then it becomes, you know, I want to just target big fish. You know, Once you kind of go through the whole, ebb and flow, if you will, of a fishing, trip, a lot of times you find yourself saying, I, I'm kind of snobby. Like, I want to catch a fish on a dry. I want to catch them. I want to spot the fish. I want to see the fish rise, and I want to be able to cast to that fish and watch him rise. That's my ultimate. Where you might also have the same situation with the hunt, where you're like, I want to inventory all the animals. I want to pick out, 3 of the best, most mature, biggest animals that I can find. And then I want to go the whole hunt and just hunt those 3. And if I go the whole time and I don't get a crack at them, and I don't get them, then so be it. I think everybody has their own sense of what they want out of it, but I would encourage people to, like, as you mature as a hunter, make sure that you're, doing it for the thrill, make sure you're doing it for all of the right reasons.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And like I said, right now where I'm at in my career, I just want meat in the freezer. I mean,
Yeah, so
that's
I
my
mean that's great, and that's a great position to be in because quite honestly, you don't have to be super picky a lot of the times, and when you're learning, as long as you're going in just trying to say I want to learn everything I can about this hunt and enjoy the experience and the process, whether it's spike or a big giant 4x4 buck, like if your priorities are you just want to put meat in the freezer, it's a fantastic place to be in because you don't. Some people, they get so caught up in score that if they don't find a 180-inch buck on the hunt or a 200-inch buck, it's not a successful hunt. I try and wash that completely out of my brain and say I'm the one that's chosen to hunt 200-inch plus bucks, but I have to be able
yeah,
to go home without one and be just as happy about the hunt. Some people ask me, what's some of your best hunts? Well, in 2018, I went on two Dall sheep hunts. One of them was in the Northwest Territories, and we did 9 days, 67 miles. We got dropped off, and we did 67 miles on our back. We moved camp every single day. We made a new camp every single day. Saw like 18 rams, didn't see a single 10-year-old ram, and I chose not to shoot. And they're like, man, are you disappointed? I'm like, no, it's one of the greatest hunts of my life. They're like, well, you didn't get one. Like, I don't need to get one. I got an
yeah,
amazing experience. I got to spend, 9 days in some of the most incredible country in the Mackenzie Mountains with, a guy that's harvested over 200 rams in his career and learn from him. And, when you kind of get over the harvest or the outcome, as far as getting something, a lot of times you can get where those experiences mean just as much as harvesting the biggest buck of your life.
yeah. Yeah, so there's a couple things that you had said that just thoughts that I had on, and one of them is, when you are out there and having the experience. So I think of like the past 4 years that my son and I have been going out. We've learned and we've hunted the same area because every year it's just an OTC tag, right? Like that's where we can go. So this
Mainly deer. Are
year,
you talking deer?
elk,
Elk. Okay.
elk. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the only thing we've gone after, and we're doing an archery. We're trying to take one with the bow, but we've gone out and we've learned so much because we're in the same area. You get familiar with kind of like paths where you can see them go, and the reactions that they'll have. This year when we went out early. We've been back up, we haven't seen anything. There's been no action where we've seen action the past 3 years, and so we're trying to adjust and adapt, and we're going to wait for it's finally starting to get a little bit cooler out here in Utah. I mean, it says it's 55 degrees, but I don't believe that. It feels like it's
Feels
closer
like
to 70 today.
75.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, those things we've learned a lot, and every time we've come back and we've had a blast together. I mean, I can't think of anything better than going out and you know the country that God's created for us, and just be able to spend time with your father and son, and we're out
Absolutely.
there, and we're both learning together because we both started hunting at the same time. I think I've fallen a little bit more in love with it than he had, but he was the one that really pushed me to get into it. But a question that I had with that, you had mentioned some people can go out and scout, some people can't. Do you find, just in regards of the success of the hunt, whatever that may be for them, if they're able to get some time out scouting, do you feel that that is a game changer, or is it kind of indifferent if they're using, I guess, is it a game changer if they're by themselves, or is it a game change even if they're out with a guide? Does
So
that make sense?
both, yeah. I mean, I think the people that can get out there and go scouting, um, on their own and they're doing a do-it-yourself hunt, I think their level of success in being able to take inventory and being able to harvest an animal goes up dramatically. Those same people that are maybe don't have the time, uh, to get, they've hired, say, me as an outfitter or a guide, but they can still get out there and get acclimated with the unit and just get a feel for it. Sometimes that gives them a little bit more of kind of an inner piece of what to expect. Um, when you go on a guided hunt, a lot of times the reason you go on a guided hunt is maybe you don't have the time. Maybe you live out of state and it's not feasible for you to go. And so you're going to hire a guide that's going to shorten the learning curve of maybe you're a great hunter and you know how to hunt. You just kind of need someone to get you shorten the learning curve and get you in a good area, get you in position where they've seen elk before. And maybe you're a great hunter and you don't need someone to help you harvest or kill an elk or call an elk in, but you need someone that knows the terrain. They know how to navigate around. They know the good areas, the bad areas. They know the areas where, tons of people are. They know where the secluded areas are. So, I mean, I think a lot of it depends on what you're looking for. But yes, I think if you can get out there in your units, spend time, learn the road structures, learn the trail structures, learn where the animals might move and migrate. Any of that, boots on the ground information that you can learn is going to help you out for sure. 100%.
Perfect. Jay, last question that I have for you is this: what are some things that people do that make for really bad hunts?
I think bad hunts are usually made up of, like I said before, bad expectations, but I also think bad attitudes. I think the number one thing, I'm around a lot of successful people in hunting and fishing and, real estate, different things. And the one thing I can tell you is bad hunts are made up usually by bad attitudes, false expectations, bad attitudes, and there's nothing worse than having someone in camp that has a bad attitude that's not giving it 100%. It's much like life, there's throughout the hunts, you're going to have good things and bad things. You're going to have ups and downs, and it's the guys that have the great attitudes that can take, the goods with the bads, and just kind of even keel, stay positive. I always say I want to be going as hard on day 14 as I am on day one. And what I see is a lot of people come out and they're real energetic for the first 1 or 2, 3 days, and then you notice that they're sleeping in, that their attitude, they're grumpier, and I want to be the opposite. I want to be the guy that's just ramping up every day. I'm getting a little more, fired up. And the best hunters that I've been around are the guys that can maintain a great positive attitude and keep their reality of what they're trying to do in check. And some of the best hunters I've been around are the guys that literally can go 14 days, not see what they're looking for, and still be, hiking in the morning before light, hiking out after dark, just pounding, pounding, pounding. And I encourage people, even on their hunts, in their personal life, in their business life, to have a great attitude. If you have a great attitude and you have a winning, I always like to have a winner's attitude. I have a saying, my wife laughs. I said, we're winners. We're winners. And if you talk like that and you tell yourself that you're a winner and that you're not going to have a bad attitude, and if anyone, if your hunting buddies down in the dumps say, listen, this is we're winners, let's go, and keep each other motivated. I think that goes a long ways. I've seen a lot of bad attitudes, really spoil the vibe in camp and spoil the hunt. So I'd say keeping a good attitude is paramount.
I agree 100%. I mean, just in all aspects of life. I'm sitting here, I'm thinking of a book that I read a couple of years ago, and it's Endurance by Sir William Shackleton. I don't know if you're familiar with that story or not,
Mm-mm.
but their family's motto that they have on their crest is endure. And they went out and they were trying to be, I'm going to slaughter it because it's been a few years, but his crew went out and got stranded in the Arctic, and the ocean froze up, and they got stuck there for years. And Well, if somebody's going to go read it, I don't want to share the whole story, but what they went through, I mean, I think they were out there for almost a year and a half. And just the mentality that he had as the captain and the leader of that expedition that they were out there doing, everyone came home. I mean, it's a really really good book. If you haven't heard it, it sounds like something that you might really get a kick out of, enjoy.
Yeah,
But
it
it's
sounds
an
awesome.
incredible book, an incredible story. But yeah, no, I appreciate that. The other thing that I was going to ask you, and I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to confirm that it seems to me like the conditioning of preparing for this hunt is maybe something that some people don't really take into consideration because, you know, if your conditioning's not there, it becomes real easy after day two to start sleeping in. Does that play a role in what you're seeing as far as, like, I guess maybe keeping that positive attitude?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's as much of a mental grind as it is a physical grind. It doesn't matter what hunt you're on. The most successful hunters, day in and day out are the guys that have a great attitude and the guys that have a good, strong, they're mentally tough. You get rain, you get sleet, you get snow, you get hail, you get hot weather, dust, sunburned, rattlesnakes, not seeing anything, horrible hikes, injuries,
Ticks.
the people, yeah, ticks, you name it. If you can laugh it off and just keep plugging away, I always like to, think no matter how bad you have it, no matter how tough it is, there's always someone that has it tougher. There's always someone that has a worse condition. So, there's no room for poor me. There's no room for poor us. It's, what can we do to be better today? And try and do that with your hunting buddies and who you're with. And, if you're energetic to get up in the morning and you set the alarm and it goes off and you pop up out of bed and you're up, I don't drink coffee, but you're up making coffee or making breakfast and we're going to get them today, and you start the day with a good positive message and positive tone, it goes a long ways in camp. And so I encourage people, like, even when you're just getting your just teeth knocked in, which happens to me more times than not, you just keep focusing on, hey, this is gonna come out. We're gonna come out on top on this deal. Um, it's no different than in life. We get lots of hurdles and challenges that get thrown our way, but if you keep a good positive attitude and know that you're going to come out on top and you're going to push till you see the light, and sometimes you're lost in the middle of the tunnel and it's dark all around you and you can't see, and we've all been on those situations where we're walking back to camp and our headlamp goes out and we go for our backup headlamp and the batteries are dead in it or whatnot, and you just got to plow forward and know that there's a better day coming. There's a better time coming. We've all missed shots, and you've blown the opportunity here. You've laid in a mountain for 8 days waiting for your opportunity, and it steps out and you miss them at 250 yards. Easy shot. You can make it, every day of the week, or a 40-yard bow shot and you miss. The only thing you can do is just keep going and get another shot and put yourself in a position to succeed, and keep, one foot in front of the other. Um, so, I mean, I think that mentality goes a long ways with hunting, fishing, life, relationships, all of the above.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes me think, my dad used to always tell me, I had some friends I used to run around with, and he's like, would always tell me, he's like, show me your friends, and it'll show you your future.
Yeah, there's a
And
lot to that.
yeah, you have to do that. And in this too, I think the hunting community is so great because I think there's so many people that are out there that have such great attitudes and they're so willing to share their knowledge and help coach somebody up. But yeah, it's that positive mental mindset. I talk about it with my kids and I talk about it with my wife. If you focus on negative, like that's all you're going to see around you
Yeah.
is negative.
Yep.
This went wrong, that went wrong, this went wrong. If you focus on the positive, you you're going to draw good things in. You can't help but just be grateful for the opportunities that are in front of you. It's like you said, I mean, to be out on a mountain hunting, there's people that would love to be able to do that.
Sure.
But they might not be able to afford a bow. They might not be able to afford a rifle. They might not be able to afford ammunition.
Right.
But that's my mindset is I just look for the opportunity in everything that, because there's good things. Like I said, we've been out 4 years. We've been skunked so far. But man, we sure have learned a lot and we're able to get ourselves in better positions. So, well, Jay, hey, I really grateful for your time and appreciate the wealth of knowledge that you've shared with us. If people want to reach out to you, how's the best way for them to contact you? Is that through Instagram at J Scott Outdoors?
Yeah, that's a good place, at J Scott Outdoors. I also have a website, jscottoutdoors.com. But I do a bi-weekly, for sure, a weekly Q&A on my Instagram. And they can always direct message me and ask me any question, but I try and at least weekly, if not bi-weekly, do a Q&A on my stories. I'm answering, a couple hundred questions a week. Happy to help people. Love to, help people succeed and become better. The outdoors has given so much to me. Anything I can do with hunting and fishing to share anything that I might have learned or shorten someone's learning curve. That's why I do it, and that's why I started my podcast 10 years ago, and just trying to help inform, educate, as much as I can, and shed a positive light on hunting and fishing, and everything that it's done for me, so yeah, J Scott Outdoors on Instagram is probably the best way to reach me.
Jay's obviously very generous with his time, and he was great to respond to me when I reached out to him. So a great source of information. Head over there, give him a follow, jump on his website. And if you're looking for a hunt and you want to head out to the Mexico area, definitely you guys should be considering jumping on there. Okay, guys, until next time, thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. God bless.
Thank you for sticking around and watching the podcast. As always, be sure to hit that subscribe button, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Leave us a review, and we'd love for you to share it with your friends. Also want to tell you about Hunt Stealth. We are giving away a pheasant hunt guided experience. It's at the Pleasant Valley Hunting Preserve. Some of the world's best wired-haired German pointers are going to be out there helping guide you on your pheasant hunt. You're also going to get a 1-year membership to the club, as well as Cata Sports is providing a 1-person hammock. We've got 2 tripod stools, a Northward Series backpacking tent for 1 person, a Horizon folding cot, and a 60-quart ice vault that's got on wheels. So it's super, super cool package. Also, ReadyWise, our good friends over there, are giving us 3-day adventure bag meal kits for you to take out for you to use on your next adventure. So head on over to huntstealth.com, and for every $1 spent, you get 1 entry into that contest. Again, thanks for listening.